Well, hello. Welcome. We're going to get started here in just a moment.
All right, Lee, we are live on YouTube and on Zoom.
Okay, well, let me see if I can share my computer and get us started. Can everybody see that?
Yes, we can.
All right, guys. Today I'm going to talk to you about some of the emails that you guys are receiving that you might have questions about that we send you in regards to your clients. Um, Whether they accept, they get turned down, that sort of thing. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about data merge and a couple other things that folks have questions about. Every time when you submit a file to us, they go through an entire process. And as we go from one step to the next, you're going to get an email saying, okay, we got a submitted client. We got all the documents. We've submitted it to lenders. We got an offer, and goes all the way through the process. Whenever we are looking in our CRM to be able to uh, send you an email in regards to your client. We've got a lot of different options like lack of interest, uh, uh, why reasons why we're closing the file. And that's really what I want to talk to you about. Sometimes it's a lack of interest, sometimes it's they're not eligible for funding, and sometimes it's the industry. Sometimes it's there's application issues, but that's very seldom because we always fix those. And then sometimes it's final underwriting. We once we choose what that category is, we got to put a reason for it, and there's a lot of different reasons that a client doesn't. We don't move forward with them. Number one, they could be no longer interested. They could have documents not received, aged out. In other words, we're going to them and we're asking them for additional documents and they just won't give them to us. And we have to have it because the underwriter's requesting it. A client declined for non-response. We call them and call them and we call you and you can't help us and as a agent. So eventually we just got to time it out and then move on. Then we have clients that actually decline the offer. Uh, the one that's really gets everybody is client is not eligible for funding. And that's really the primary thing that I want to talk to you guys about today. There's a lot of lender responses that we get when something's rejected. And these are actual responses right here. For example, this one was rejected for, it says declined. Unfortunately, the application's been declined because the merchant was flagged in the portal for the following reasons. They defaulted with CFG Merchant Solutions. In addition, there's court papers filed against them with flash funding. So that particular one kind of speaks for itself. But then we have those that say the merchant's not eligible to be funded. They won't give any more than that in writing. So I have to literally contact the underwriter, the writing department, talk to the right people, and then they'll tell me over the phone exactly why they declined that file. We also have those that reasons that, and all we get is rejection reasons, FICO scores, or fraud, or too many negative days of NSF must be less than five, or combination of NSF and overdrafts are too big. Sometimes it's just as simple as this that we get. So these kind of speak for themselves, and when except for the fraud part. And a lot of times I'll call and ask what that fraud is. But if I've got multiple lenders that are saying the same thing, at least one of them are going to tell me more detail about that client. The biggest response that I get usually is the merchant is not eligible to be funded. Well, I contact in a lot of cases and talk to them about why in the world was it declined. Most of the time, I'd say 90% of the time, I already know why because everybody else has declined them and saying the same thing, but they're saying many of them will give us more detail than that. Then we have what we call a data merge file. The Data Merch, and I'm going to tell you about it in just a few minutes. They've got a default history with a particular advance company, and then the advance company wants you to contact them and let them know that they've tried to get funding and wants you to send them their bank statements. I will never do that. But these are the kind of this is the kind of information that Data Merch is going to give. Rejection notice, Data Merch, where they've been reported by Kodiak Funding for manipulated bank statements. These are the kind of things that I get on every single file that I receive from a client. But let me tell you what Data Merch is. Data Merch is a members only online database where funders in the cash advance industry can share data on merchant accounts, enabling them to cross-reference and underwrite more effectively, ultimately helping to avoid potential losses. So if a client is put on Data Merch, they can't get off until they contact that lender and that lender agrees to take them off of Data Merch, and they almost never going to unless they pay them in full. And I don't mean just paying them and settling an account for less than full. They're not going to take them off for any other reason than paying in full. Here's another reason that we actually, this is an actual file that I received, and this is what it looks like. Negative days, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 negative days in the month. That means 12 out of 20 to 21 days in that month. There's no way the file could have been paid on, because it's either daily or weekly payments. And so when a underwriter looks at this, and by the way, this never gets past us, because I know it's futile to try to. You can't convince underwriters that these are good people they're not good people, that this is a good account. You don't have to worry about them. They're going to pay it. When you got this many negative bank days, because if you look at it from the 31st of December all the way until the 27th of January, they were negative. So it was impossible to have paid that. And then you got all these that have cash management transfers. None of those cash management transfers count as deposits. None of them do. The only thing that counts, because all they're doing, by the way, is transferring money from a savings or maybe a cash management account that is not another bank account, but it's where they got money they can move around. The only thing that's going to count on this one is like January the 16th, they had an ACH deposit, and I blacked all this out because you can't see. I'm not going to let you see account numbers and that sort of thing. So there's really got one deposit for $10,000, and then they got a second deposit for $50,000, and I think there's one more somewhere right here for 800 and some. So that's really what the actual amount is deposited, in all of our lenders subtract all of this out. So when it looks like there are $200,000 in deposits for the month, there's really only about 60, and they look at every single month. Now, here are the 10 most common reasons for a decline file. Number one, decline during final underwriting is big. They found background issues they missed on the initial look. They got currently negative in their month to date. That's really bad. If you're negative, but you don't have a bunch of negative days, that's one thing. But if you're negative and you've been negative for a while, I'm not going to be able to get you funded. And I tell everybody before I ever get to this point about the bank verification, you cannot be negative in your account. And then they just accepted funding from a competitor. This happens more than you think. A lot of times, and brokers can be blamed for some of it, but a lot of it's the client themselves. And when I mean brokers blame for it, these brokers that I say we can blame for it are the ones who are going out there and getting two different clients to say, getting two different funders and saying, here, we can only get you 60,000 from this one, but we got you 40 from the other one. So what I'll do is we'll try to get them funded simultaneously so that they don't see. Well, you can slip this by, but once we find it, that's a problem. Secondly, a lot of times the broker doesn't even know, most of the time, I would say, that the client already accepted funding earlier in the month. And especially when it's like this month. Today is the 19th. We don't know what's happened in March. So until they do the bank verification and they look through the account. That's why they do bank verifications. And they look at the account and they see the account shows that they just got 20-some thousand dollars deposited by a particular lender. Then that kills the deal because the underwriting on that file was based on them not having another position. Sometimes if the client doesn't own the business, fraud. And that happens all the time where the kids or a partner or somebody is trying to get funding and the folks that own the majority of the company don't even know about it. Online bank accounts, these type of accounts are very hard to get funded, and accounts like with Found or places like that. It's hard because they don't allow ACH deductions on a weekly or a daily basis that are already predetermined in the system. Manipulated bank statements are a big thing. Our internal team tries really hard to spot these, but it's become very sophisticated out there. I promise you, I can probably catch 99% of them, but there's going to be 1% was so sophisticated, and that's why another reason we do the bank verifications, because when we do a verification through either Plaid or through Decision Logic or maybe a manual login, we're looking at the account itself and we are able to see that this doesn't match up with what we received from the client. They may be over leveraged. There's just too many lenders. If you're 35% or higher on your total revenue going to these types of payments, it's going to be pretty difficult to receive more funding. The client refuses bank verification. They said, "You're not going to look at my account. My banker told me not to give you my username and password." Well, we're not asking for that unless it's an extreme situation, but we are asking that they do the bank verification. And you can look up Decision Logic and Plaid, and you'll see there are third-party verification group out there, and everybody uses them. The banks, they know who they are. Too many negative bank days during the month. That if you got 5 or more, it's got to be less than 5 as far as negative bank days. You could have 50 checks that bounce in one day, and that's not going to matter so much. But if you've got 50 checks that bounce throughout the month and you've got different negative days throughout the month, it wasn't just one day, you're not going to get funding. Time in business is important. If they're in business for less than 4 months, they're not going to get funded. Secondly, if they're in business for 4 to 6 months and that's all, and they're looking for a lot of money, they're going to get a much lower reduced amount, because unless it's at least 1 or 2 years in business, they're not going to be able to get the quote unquote 200% of what they're doing on a monthly basis. Recently funded, but we're not told because, we already talked about this. During the month, they received the funding. And then it's overshot by the broker. If you send a file to us and then you send it to 30 other places, it's going to show up because every one of those look through our system. It doesn't. Nobody knows who's looking through the Bank Breezy platform. But when you send it direct, it causes issues. And when it's overshot, I can tell you most every lender out there are going to come back with a much lower offer than if they even give one, than they normally would have. So this is just kind of a brief. Let me just release this and stop sharing. That's just a brief overview of a lot of reasons that we receive decline. So if anybody's got any, this is 15 minutes, and if anybody's got anything they'd like to add or ask or anything to do with funding, why a client would be turned down and this sort of thing. A lot of times, just so you know, I can't tell you some of the reasons. They may have been out, they may have murdered someone, but I'm not going to be telling you that kind of information. I'm just going to let you know that they understand and they know what the situation is. And a lot of them will tell you, I have no idea, that's a mistake. 99.99999% of the time, it's not a mistake. And I'm happy to talk to your clients at any time you want me to talk to your client. But it's not my job to not do two things. I'm not going to convince them to do something that they don't want to do. And number two, I'm certainly not going to give information to you. And as a matter of fact, when I'm even talking to them and it's something pretty serious, I'm just going to tell them who put that information on Data Merchant. They need to call them. So I think we've got a couple questions.
Yes, we have a few hands up. Raphael, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, thanks, Wayne. So real quick, yesterday I ran into a merchant who sounded pretty desperate and needing some funding. So kind of tried to walk her through, gave her the link to the website and everything, and then I come to find out that she has multiple loans out already, and I'm not sure where they're from. But in that kind of situation or in that case, is that something we would still be able to help with, or does it depend on how many loans she has and et cetera?
Good question. But let me just tell you two things. Number one, I already know when I submit it how many she's paying on. So we scrub the bank statements and we know, so that tells us which lender partner to send it to. So if they got two or three positions, I mean, I'm not going to be able to send it to an on deck. I'm not going to be able to send it to certain lenders because they're not going to take those positions. If she has one or two positions and I see the credit's great, then maybe we can get them both paid off and that sort of thing. Also, whenever we got that file, and I'm just not sure, we're going to send it to the lenders and they're going to check the UCC file. And so if there's a bunch of other past ones that are still showing up, then we'll have to get that information on the tail end of whatever we're trying to do on the offer. I hope that answered your question.
Absolutely. Very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, and Jose, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good morning, Wade. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Do we ever fund realtors or real estate brokers?
We do. We do it all the time.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, a few more hands popped up. We have Tony. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good morning. My question is, I'm brand new, it's my first call. For some of the first few cursory questions to ask, just to see if it's even worth putting in the application, is how many other loans do you currently have? One of them, and what would be a handful of others?
So first of all, you don't have to worry as much, I mean, about all of that because we're going to handle it on my end and we're going to talk to the client. We're going to go over all of that with them. And I'm going to say, hey, I see that you have two positions here with so-and-so and so-and-so. I'm going to try to get you because of your FICO being in the 700s. I'm going to try to get these things paid off. And then I start asking for balances. So we don't want to just qualify anybody with, I don't care if they got 6 positions out there because a lot of them may be ready to fall off the next month. And I might can knock them all out if they're all within a month or so. So you let us do that and you don't worry about that. And then they can go ahead and submit the app. Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Did that answer everything? Okay. I guess he's gone.
All right, we've got Matt Duhame. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. Excuse me.
Good morning, all. Good morning, Wade Cordell. And very good explanation of many of those things that I've encountered, as you know, over the years, right? And you don't know as the agent, you don't know. And it's you did your job. Just keep that in mind. I have to remind myself with so many applications in, and these incidents, these things occur, expecting it's going to happen, and then boom, it blows up. You can't be upset with Wade. I mean, the instinct is to be upset with us or somebody, trying to get it done, but it's they can't see it until the end. And often the case is they don't do a background check until late in the process, like for underwriting. So just want to throw that out. The question I have for you today, Wade, since we are now discontinuing Biddy Advances Connect up to 15 grand, if I've got a client or anyone on here has a client that's got about 14 1 month, 13 5, and then another month's 20, could they do the workaround and just state they're doing 15 or more and submit it through Bank Breezy? Thanks.
We're
Can't hear
talking
you.
about a month or two or something like that, absolutely. If we're talking about they're all under 10,000, go ahead. You need to. They're gonna have to reapply to Giggle anyway. But if they got a 14 and a 13, but they got a 17 thrown in there, it all depends on how they answer the question. And if those 3 months are totaling 15,000, but one or two of them might be a little bit below, yeah, you can just, it all depends on how they answer the question. And I don't want to, not be able to help them there, but if they're consistently below that number on all their bank statements, then they just need to go to Giggle. Thanks, I appreciate it.
All right, and Harlequin, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, Wade.
Hey.
Happy Wednesday. My question is kind of related with Biddy Advance, and then I have another comment. But for people who are in California and New York, how are those clients going to be handled as far as at what point will you accept them into Bank Breezy?
If they're in California and New York, as you know, Giggle doesn't handle that. So
Correct.
if they're not going to be able to get funding if they're doing, below that $15,000 mark, unless they answer the question that they're doing 15 or more. And I don't want them answering the question doing 15 or more if they're doing 10 or less. But if they got 11 or 12 or 15 and a 15 pops up one place, that's different. But if they're really doing, if they got anything below 10,000 for a month, they're not going to get, they just need to go on to Giggle.
Okay. Well, they can't go to Giggle if they're in California and New York.
Well, and then I can't help them.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to get a feel for how much we can work that number. Okay. The other comment that I have, I actually had a client reach out to me this week that they originally had revenue of 25,000, and they went to one of those loan brokers who goes and shops it around. They said one of the lenders knew that they were going to be a second position, but they got them 3 positions. There was one for 25, one for 15, and one for 45,000. So they got them 85,000 on 25,000 in revenue, and it wasn't enough to what they wanted to purchase, and their revenue has now dropped to 10 to 15,000, and the total amount of payments per month for them was 9,000. So that's what some of these other players are doing out there. And we had to have a discussion about, okay, what do you have that you can sell to pay off some of those, because he's only about halfway paid off.
Well, here's the deal. Well, first of all, let me go back to the previous question that people were asking. What are you going to do with these people that are doing under 15? You know what? They're going to go to Giggle. They're going to go, if Giggle can't fund them. We're getting ready to be incredibly slammed as a company with all the new people coming on, all the new apps. We're not going to be able to work a $10,000 deal, a $5,000. Don't want to work a $5,000 deal. So that's what Giggle is for. We're really looking for the 15 and up, honestly. But the other thing is, if you're a broker with us and you stack, we're going to let you go. We're going to let you go. If you were to do something like what that you just said, and we find out, we would have to let you go, because with the reason that we have such a great platform, the reason we have such a great platform is because we got such great relationships with the lenders. And those lenders trust us. They believe us because we don't lie to them. We tell them the truth. I don't try to fudge to get somebody funded. And if they saw me go out there and I was responsible to stack, especially the 45,000 one, you think about how bad that would look for them, and they have every right to terminate our contract. We've never done that. We never would do that. Stacking is a really bad thing unless they've had a deal and that deal was funded a month or two or three or four or a year ago and they're still paying on it. We got lenders that's what they specialize in, second and third positions, but they certainly don't want us to go out there and do an underwriting on a first position and come to find out by the time they funded it, there was going to be two other things funded, but they're not, most of the time they don't miss it. But what happens is if you can get those all lined up properly and get all the funding calls together and completed at the same time, then you can get those people stacked. But then here's what a lot of lenders do, rightfully so, if they have any kind of worth to them, they go back and look at their bank account after they wire the money into it. They'll go back and refresh the decision logic that afternoon to make sure no more funding has come in. And if more funding's come in from other companies, they might just send the money back and not accept the deal, or they may terminate the broker. So no need for any of us to ever get involved in the stacking process, because it really can harm your relationship with DAC and your relationship with Bank Breezy.
Okay. Well, thank you, Wade.
Unless we're the ones that are initiating the stacking, and there are B and C and D lenders that do that. But I tell you what I'm not going to do, though, is if I got Spartan Capital and I just funded in the last month, and the client comes back and says, "Hey, I want another 10,000," I'm going to call Spartan and I'm going to say, "Listen, guys, they need another 10,000. Can you do an add-on? If not, can I get it funded somewhere else?" And if I enter that in a proper professional way, most of the time they say, "Well, yeah, wait, go ahead and do that." Or if they look at it and say, "Well, man, that's really tough. I'd rather you didn't, but I'm not going to stop you," then I'm not going to do it. And if we can keep that relationship with these lenders the way we have it, this platform, as good as it is now, is going to be incredible, especially whenever the day comes when all these brokers nationwide come around and say, "Hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get my own direct contracts." Those contracts are going to be non-existent, except for with the people you don't want to have contracts with, very, very, very soon. I promise you. I am so excited about this, Harlequin, about this learning management software and the things that we're putting in place and the things that David has spent so much time building. It's going to pay off 100-fold in the next 12 months. You wait and see, because brokers are going to want to come and do business with our platform, because we're not doing all these crazy things you're talking about, because you can never go back to that lender again when they find out about the stacking. You're not going to be, as a broker, able to go back to them and ever submit a deal.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. One other quick question. I see David is on the Zoom. Especially for California and New York, if we can get some Connect cards that have the 15,000 minimum, as opposed to the 3,000 that's on our current Connect cards, that would be amazing.
Support deals, not so.
I'm just saying that I see David on here, and if he can make a note of that. But
yeah, we won't be doing that. Just so everyone's aware, we're not seeking Giggle customers. We're seeking 15,000 and higher. I'd rather the card say 20,000 and higher, frankly. That doesn't mean we won't support everyone, but we want you guys making money. And Giggle, we have to have 20,000 customers for you to make any money. So we're not going to change the cards to say 3,000. If you want to get Giggle customers, you can easily send that to a printer and tell them to make a new card for you. We're not going to be doing that because that's not our target market. We're debating whether we're keeping that on our website, frankly, because it creates confusion and it does not create much income. So
Yeah.
it's a good lead source. So our focus is 15,000 and higher. I wish the card said that right now.
Yeah,
But
because currently they
I know
say
you're trying to be-
3,000.
I know you're trying to be considerate of everyone, Harlequin, and I understand. And I got to look at, I don't know what the cards say right now. I wish they said 15,000 though.
Yeah, they currently say 3,000. That's
Yeah,
why I'm
cool.
asking.
Cool.
Yeah, I would rather have 15,000 and above myself as well.
Yep. Beautiful. Tyler, let's change it. Switch it to 15. Appreciate it, Harlequin.
Another
Thank
thing,
you.
Harlequin, just so you know, this is hard to believe, but it takes more time for us to work and fund a $10,000 deal than it does 100. That's absolutely the truth. On 100,000, I can do online checkout. I can do a lot of things with these clients. It's just a time consuming. And think about it, if we worked 4 of those today, I could have worked 12 of everything else and not had as much time invested in it.
Yeah. Well,
Thank
thank
you
you
for
for what you do, Wade.
Thank you for your questions. Who else we got?
All right, we've got Robert. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, Wade, thanks for taking my my question. If a business is declined for NSFs, can they reapply in like 3 to 6 months?
They can apply if the month after they go a complete month with 0 NSFs, they can reapply. Or they can go 3 months with 1 or 2 NSFs during the month. But no, you don't have to wait 6 months. You don't have to wait. And sometimes it may be that month that they had 5. And if they can go another month without having any, then after 30 days, reapply. Thank you for that question.
All right, we have Imoni. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, so I just wanted to make more of a statement than ask a question. So I wanted to let everybody know I'm actually in California. So I know that, when you're going into business, sometimes things are new. And so you have like that scarcity mindset. You want to deal with all the people that you can kind of throw a net out and bring in really fast. And those are the lower end, businesses that you think are going to get funded really quickly. So I just wanted to let everybody know, by David and Wade doing what they're doing with the 15,000 and up for California, don't let it intimidate you. Just change the demographic that you're going for, the client that you're going for. So look at like your restaurants, your construction workers, your people who have contracted landscaping deals, that type of thing. And it kind of forces us in California to have a better book of business, right? So, and just for an example, I had, just to let you know how hard they work for us. And I know this because I had a lady not too long ago that was doing 150,000, 200,000 a month. She was on the 3rd position. Wade still got her $100,000 on her deal. She winded up not taking it, but she still got that amount of money on her loan in a 3rd position, right? So I know that we're in a good place. I know there's integrity with this company. And I love the fact that I've been put in position to go after the more quality, ends of business as opposed to starting out, jumping out here and using a rake instead of going in and finding quality people. So I just want to tell you guys thanks for that. And I just wanted to let everybody on the call actually know, don't let it be a deterrent. And that's all.
Thank you so much. And I don't see that we have any more hands. Did we answer anything in the chat box that needs to be answered, or is there anything you see, Morgan?
I think all is taken care of. Yes, I think we're good.
Okay, I'm going to close with this statement. I don't want you to leave here thinking, how can I get around the 15 and below? I want you to be thinking, how can I talk to more clients that are doing 20 and above? Because you can go get that $20,000 funding and make more money than you can for a half a dozen of those others. So just keep that in mind. This is getting better and better. I mean, my grandma always told me, she said, Wade, it's going to get gooder and gooder and gooder as you go. in life. And I'm telling you this, the things that are happening with DAC is pretty phenomenal. And I'm telling you, it's getting noticed on it. My phone is blowing up with folks that are in the lending business that want to be part. I have interviewed at least 6 lenders this week, but none of them are what we're looking for. And if they don't fit us, we don't fit them. So thanks for your time, and you guys have a blessed rest of the week.